Students, through this audio, I am going to explain the chapter Indigo. The chapter is written by Louis Fischer. Actually, Louis Fischer has written a biography of Mahatma Gandhi, and this chapter is part of that biography. This chapter describes an incident in Gandhi's life in which he helped the farmers of Champaran district in Bihar. The chapter begins with the description that Gandhi was attending the annual National Convention of Indian National Congress, and in that convention there were many delegates and many people who were attending that convention. In that rush of people, a peasant who was illiterate but resolute. Resolute means determined. He came to Gandhi and asked Gandhi to go to Champaran, his district. Gandhi had never heard about the district and he asked Rajkumar Shukla that he was not free to go there. Shukla accompanied Gandhi everywhere, wherever he used to go, and always asked Gandhi that he should accompany and go to his district Champaran to help the farmers there. Gandhi gave him a promise that he would go to Champaran if he would meet him after 6 months on a particular day, and there Gandhi found that Shukla was waiting for him. And Gandhi accompanied Shukla and they went to Patna, Bihar. And at Patna, they went to the house of Rajendra Prasad, who was the lawyer of sharecroppers, farmers of Champaran, because Gandhi wanted to collect all the information of the case for which Shukla was taking him to Champaran. There he came to know that Rajendra Prasad was out of town, and the servants at the home of Rajendra Prasad thought Gandhi was also a farmer, and they made Gandhi sit on the ground and did not allow him to take water from the well, thinking that he must be an untouchable. So there was no, you can say, that benefit of going to Patna. So Gandhi decided to go to Muzaffarpur. There Gandhi stayed at the house of a government teacher, Professor Malkani. Professor Malkani harbored or gave shelter to Gandhi for 2 days, and Gandhi said that it was very extraordinary for a government teacher to give shelter to a man, to a politician, or to a social worker like him. And there Gandhi also met the lawyers of sharecroppers farmers, and Gandhi came to understand the case for which Shukla was trying to call Gandhi and wanted him to help them. Gandhi came to understand that at Champaran the farmers were sharecroppers and they had to plant indigo on the 15% of their land and give the entire harvest, indigo harvest, as rent to the landlords who were Englishmen. There was long-term contract between the lawyers. There was a long-term contract between the farmers and the landlords, according to which they were planting indigo. But when landlords comes to understand that there was no need of natural indigo in the market and they would not get the customers, as Germany has developed synthetic indigo, they did not want the indigo crop from the farmers. Now they asked the farmers, without telling them this fact, they asked the farmers to sign new agreements according to which they would not need to plant indigo on their lands, but instead they had to pay compensation to the landlords for freeing them from 15% agreement. Some of the farmers gave money, but some did not want to give money, and the landlords tried to threaten such farmers who were not giving money or compensation for the new agreements. So Rajkumar Shukla for this cause was inviting Gandhi to come to Champaran, and After some time, farmers also come to understand the real cause of new agreement, and the farmers who gave compensation also were trying to get their compensation back. That is why they had their cases pending in the law courts. Gandhi, when he heard the cases, Gandhi comes to understand that lawyers were charging high fee from the farmers, and he scolded the lawyers for this. Gandhi started his work to help the sharecroppers. He went British officials, but there he was not successful. But because of Gandhi's efforts, the people started gathering and there were disturbance in the area. So police commissioner asked Gandhi to leave Champaran, but Gandhi signed the summon and he said that he would not leave Champaran. And because of this, because he disobeyed the order of police commissioner, there was case against Gandhi in the court. During the hearing of the court, many peasants gathered around the courthouse and officials felt powerless and they asked Gandhi to help regulate the crowd. Gandhi helped the officials, British officials, to regulate the crowd, and in this way, Gandhi told the officials, the Britishers, that they could not order him in his own country, and moreover, their might, their strength, which was unchallenged by the Indians, could now be challenged by them. In the court, Gandhi said that he disobeyed the order to leave Champaran because if he had gone, he would not be able to help the sharecroppers, for which purpose he had come to Champaran. He said that he did not lack the respect for the law, rather, he had higher respect for a higher law, and that higher law is his voice of conscience. So, in order to obey this higher law of voice of conscience, he disobeyed the law of leaving Champaran, but he asked the judge that he should be given punishment for breaking this law. When judge realized that whole crowd was behind Gandhi and he had support of so many common people behind him, he asked Gandhi to furnish bail and for to escape going to jail. But Gandhi refused to furnish bail and judge released him without bail only. Gandhi had a talk with his lawyer friends, including Rajendra Prasad. And in this meeting, Gandhi asked the lawyer friends that if after some days he was sent to jail for disobeying the law of leaving Champaran, what would they do? So the lawyer friends told Gandhi that they came to advise Gandhi only, and if he would go to jail, they would also go back to their own places. But then Gandhi asked that if he would go to jail and lawyers would go home, who would help the sharecroppers? At this point of time, Rajendra Prasad says that they realized their mistake and they thought that Gandhi, being an outsider, was ready to go to prison for the sharecroppers, and they who were not only the lawyers of sharecroppers but also the residents of the adjoining districts, if they would go home, it would be a shameful desertion for them, right? So in this way, Gandhi influenced his lawyer friends, and his lawyer friends said that they were also ready to go to jail in Gandhi's support. And this is how Gandhi said that in a way he has already won the case of Champaran. But after some days, Gandhi received a written communication from magistrate that the case against Gandhi was dropped, and in this way civil disobedience became successful in India for the first time, as it was the support of common people behind Gandhi that made judge drop the case against him, and Gandhi was allowed to live in Champaran now. So now when Gandhi received the order to live in Champaran, he was free to live in Champaran. Gandhi conducted a far-flung inquiry into the grievances, into the problems of sharecroppers, and when he collected many written statements and other proofs, at that time Lieutenant Governor of the state called Gandhi to talk to him. Sir Edward Gate, the Lieutenant Governor, had 4 meetings with Gandhi, and according to the and as outcome of these meetings, an official commission of inquiry was established, and in this two investigate the case of sharecroppers. So, in this official commission of inquiry, there were many members, there were landlords, there were British officials, and Gandhi was the only representative from the side of farmers. Official commissioner agreed that landlords should pay back the money to farmers which they had illegally taken from them, and they asked Gandhi how much money he would like to take back. Gandhi said that on the behalf of all the farmers, Gandhi said that he would agree to take 50% of refund, but landlords were ready to give only 25% of refund. Gandhi, at this moment, to everybody's amazement, to everybody's surprise, Gandhi agreed to this, saying that, thinking that the amount of refund was not important, rather, it was more important that the landlords had lost the cases against farmers, and in this way farmers realized that they have rights and they can protect their rights, and they also can win against landlords, against Britishers. So after few years, the landlords vacated the estates, they left their estates, which naturally went back to farmers, and in this way indigo sharecropping ended. So, up to this part of the chapter, Louis Pasteur tackled the indigo sharecropping problem and how Gandhi solved it. In the later part of the chapter, Louis Pasteur told Gandhi's way of working and how he was concerned with day-to-day problem of millions of people of his country. This part of the chapter gives us an insight into Gandhi's character. Gandhi, during his stay in Champaran to help the sharecroppers, he observed that there was backwardness in Champaran villages. In 6 Champaran villages, with his efforts, primary schools were opened, some medical facilities were also made available, some medicines were made available, and because of Gandhi's appeal, a doctor came to give his services to the villagers, and Gandhi also with the help of his wife taught the rules of sanitation and cleanliness to the villagers. And during his stay in Champaran, Gandhi also kept a long distant watch on his ashram. As well, he also observed the working of his ashram that was in Ahmedabad. So Louis Pasteur through these examples is telling that how Gandhi used to keep an eye on each and everything that was under his control or that was under his observance. Then after this, Louis Pasteur also explained that when Gandhi came to Champaran to help the sharecroppers, he never thought that he was going to oppose the Britishers. It was not an act of defiance. Defiance means opposition. And rather, why he came to Champaran? It was on the request of a sharecropper, Rajkumar Shukla. And when Gandhi came to Champaran, he never thought that he would oppose the Britishers or he would do something against them. This was typical Gandhian way of working. He wanted to elevate, to remove the problems of the common people of his country, and he never worked for doing some higher political disturbances or some political changes. Rather, by solving the problem of people, he would effect the political changes. So this is how Gandhi was a political leader with a difference. His eye was on the day-to-day problems of millions of people of his country rather than on higher political or social abstract ideas. Right. Another thing Louis Pasteur highlighted about Gandhi's character, that how Gandhi taught self-reliance to his lawyer friends and to everybody around him during Champaran stay. Charles Freer Andrews, with this example of Charles Freer Andrews was an English missionary who wanted to go to Fiji Islands. He was follower of Gandhi. In those days Gandhi was in Champaran. He came to meet Gandhi in Champaran, and Gandhi's loyal friends asked Gandhi that they should ask the freer Andrews, Charles, to stop there and help them in indigo sharecropping problem. It was in the mind of the lawyers that because Charles was an Englishman, and if they had an Englishman support, there would be an easy fight for them against the Britishers. But Gandhi recognized this thing, and Gandhi told his loyal friends that they should rely on themselves and they should not seek a an option in Charles only because he's an Englishman. And he said that this shows the weakness of their heart. And lawyers admitted this fact, and they thought that Gandhi in this way taught them a lesson in self reliance. So Louis Pasteur in the end summed up his ideas that during Champaran episode, Gandhi not only taught self-reliance to his countrymen, it was also a beginning of liberation from fear of Britishers, and rather it was Champaran episode was the beginning of independence of India from the Britishers.